The pill you took this morning was stolen from a plant your grandmother already knew about. Metformin, the most prescribed diabetes drug on earth, was extracted from a flower called French lilac. These 7 herbs were used for centuries thorough. Then a company put them in a pill and charged you 100 times more. Stay with me until the end, because number 7 is the one that shocked even me as a medical professional. Today we are going to discuss 7 kitchen herbs that became the most powerful drugs in modern medicine, and why the original plants still matter more than ever. In this session, you will learn the hidden origin story behind 7 pills that millions of seniors take every single day without knowing where they actually came from. Somewhere right now, a 65-year-old man is swallowing a white pill for his blood sugar, and he has no idea that pill was born inside a purple flower. Somewhere, a 70-year-old woman is paying $40 a month for a heart medication that was discovered by watching a dying man eat foxglove leaves. What you are about to hear is not alternative medicine, wow. It is the actual origin story of the drugs you already trust. The pharmaceutical industry did not invent these cures. They found them growing in fields, gardens, and kitchen windows. They extracted the active compound, wrapped it in a patent, gave it a brand name, and built empires worth billions. And the original herbs, the ones that worked for thousands of years, quietly disappeared from the conversation. But they did not disappear from the earth, and that is exactly why you need to hear what comes next. Let me tell you about Harold Price, a 68-year-old retired pharmacist who spent 40 years filling prescriptions. Harold knew every drug by its brand name, its generic name, its dosage, and its side effect profile. But one evening, while reading a medical history journal, Harold discovered something that stopped him cold. The very first drug he ever dispensed as a young pharmacist, aspirin, was nothing more than a chemically modified version of willow tree bark. Harold spent the next 6 months tracing the origin of every major drug in his old pharmacy, and what he found changed his entire approach to health after retirement. I am going to walk you through the exact same 7 discoveries Harold made, and by the end, you will never look at your medicine cabinet the same way again. Let us start with the very first discovery, Tao, and this one is hiding in plain sight along every riverbank in the country. Number 1, willow bark, the herb that became aspirin. In 1763, a reverend named Edward Stone chewed the bark of a white willow tree to treat his fever, and it worked within hours. The active compound was salicin, a natural anti-inflammatory that the human body converts into salicylic acid. In 1897, a chemist at Bayer modified that compound into acetyl salicylic acid and gave it the brand name aspirin. Today, aspirin generates over $1.2 billion in annual sales worldwide. But here is what most people over 60 do not know. Willow bark extract still contains the original salicin plus dozens of supporting polyphenols that aspirin pills do not. Published research in the journal Phytomedicine found that willow bark extract provided comparable pain relief with significantly fewer gastrointestinal side effects than synthetic aspirin. That means for centuries, people had access to a gentler version of aspirin, and it was growing along riverbanks the entire time. Harold started brewing willow bark tea every evening, not to replace his medication, but because he realized the original plant still had something the pill had lost. If you have ever taken an aspirin and felt that sharp sting in your stomach afterward, now you understand why. Now the second herb, and this is the one that shocked Harold more than any other because he had been dispensing it for decades. Number 2, French lilac, the flower that became metformin. In medieval Europe, herbalists prescribed a beautiful purple flower called Galega officinalis, also known as French lilac or goat's rue, to patients who urinated too frequently. They did not know it at the time, but those patients had what we now call type 2 diabetes. In 1918, scientists isolated a compound called guanidine from French lilac and discovered it dramatically lowered blood sugar in laboratory testing. By 1957, that compound was refined into metformin, and today it is the single most prescribed diabetes drug on the planet, with over 150 million prescriptions written every year. The global metformin market exceeds $2.8 billion annually, all traced back to a wildflower that farmers use to feed their goats. What makes this story heartbreaking for seniors is that French lilac was available for free for nearly 400 years before anyone thought to charge money for what it did naturally. Now, I must be very clear. If you are on metformin, do not stop taking it because of this video. But understanding where your medication came from gives you the power to ask smarter questions the next time you sit in your doctor's office. Harold told me that learning the metformin story was the moment he realized the pharmacy counter was just a middleman between nature and the patient. This next story involves a poisonous flower, a village woman with no medical degree, and a drug that saved millions of hearts. Number 3, foxglove, the poisonous flower that saved millions of hearts. In 1775, a British physician named William Withering heard about an old woman in Shropshire who cured dropsy, severe fluid buildup, using a secret herbal tea. Withering tracked down the recipe and identified the key ingredient, purple foxglove, also known as Digitalis purpurea. He spent 10 years carefully documenting dosages and discovered that foxglove extract could regulate an irregular heartbeat and reduce dangerous fluid retention. The active compound digoxin was eventually isolated from a related species called Digitalis lanata and became one of the most important cardiac drugs in medical history. For over 200 years, digoxin has been used to treat atrial fibrillation and congestive heart failure, conditions that affect millions of adults over 60. Here is the part that makes this story incredible. The old woman in Shropshire had no medical training, no laboratory, and no pharmaceutical company behind her. She simply knew which plant to pick and how to brew it. And that knowledge saved more lives than most medical schools produce in a decade. Harold kept a dried foxglove flower pressed inside his journal, not to use it because raw foxglove is extremely dangerous, but to remind himself that nature solved the problem first. If you are on a heart medication right now, there is a real chance its origin story starts in a garden, not a laboratory. Number 4 is the one that made Harold angry a pund, and after you hear it, you will understand exactly why. Number 4, autumn crocus, the ancient gout flower that became colchicine. For more than 3,000 years, healers in Egypt, Greece, and the Middle East used the autumn crocus flower to treat joint pain and swelling. The compound responsible was colchicine, an alkaloid so powerful it was formally isolated in 1820 and has been in continuous medical use ever since. Colchicine remains the frontline treatment for gout attacks to this day, and recent research published in the New England Journal of Medicine showed it can even reduce the risk of cardiovascular events. But here's where the story turns dark for seniors. In 2010, a pharmaceutical company took this ancient compound, ran new clinical trials, and received exclusive marketing rights. The price jumped from 9 cents per pill to nearly $6 per pill overnight for the same molecule that had been available for nearly 2 centuries. 3,000 years of traditional knowledge, repriced, repackaged, and resold to the very people who needed it most. Harold called this the most infuriating story in all of pharmaceutical history, and honestly, it is hard to disagree with him. If you or someone you love deals with gout or joint inflammation, drop a comment below because you deserve to know this history. The next flower is so common you have probably walked past it 1,000 times without realizing what it can do for your brain. Number 5, the periwinkle plant, the quiet little flower behind a powerful brain drug. In Madagascar and parts of Southeast Asia, traditional healers use the periwinkle plant, Vinca minor, to treat headaches, dizziness, and memory problems in older adults. Scientists later isolated a compound called vinpocetine from the periwinkle and found it could increase blood flow to the brain by relaxing cerebral blood vessels. Today, vinpocetine is prescribed in over 50 countries across Asia and Europe for age-related cognitive decline, senile dementia, and post-stroke recovery. A study published in the European Journal of Clinical Pharmacology confirmed that vinpocetine improved memory performance and cerebral circulation in elderly patients within 12 weeks. Yet in many Western countries, this compound is sold only as a supplement, not a drug, which means most seniors have never even heard of it. The periwinkle plant is still one of the most common ground cover flowers in gardens across America, blooming quietly while a brain drug made from its extract sells in clinics overseas. Harold planted periwinkle around his mailbox after learning this. Not for medicine, but as a daily reminder that the answers are sometimes literally growing beneath your feet. If you have noticed your memory getting cloudier in the last few years, remember this flower and ask your doctor about what it produced. This 6th herb is already in your kitchen right now, and what the research says about it will genuinely surprise you. Number 6, turmeric, the golden spice sitting in your cabinet right now. Turmeric has been used in Ayurvedic and traditional Chinese medicine for over 4,000 years to treat inflammation, digestive problems, skin wounds, and joint pain. The active compound curcumin was isolated in 1815, and since then it has become one of the most studied natural molecules in modern science, with over 25,000 published papers. The global curcumin extract market was valued at over $100 million in 2025 and is projected to reach $258 million by 2034. Pharmaceutical companies are actively developing curcumin-based drugs for arthritis, Alzheimer's disease, inflammatory bowel disease, and even certain cancers. A meta-analysis published in the Journal of Medicinal Food found that curcumin supplementation significantly reduced markers of systemic inflammation, especially C-reactive protein, in adults over 50. But here is the irony. The same turmeric powder that costs $3 in your grocery store contains the exact compound that pharmaceutical researchers are spending millions trying to turn into a patentable drug. The challenge with raw turmeric is that curcumin has low bioavailability on its own. Your body struggles to absorb it. But traditional cooks already solved this centuries ago. They paired turmeric with black pepper, and the piperine in black pepper increases curcumin absorption by up to 2,000%. That is not a folk remedy. That is a verified finding published in the journal Planta Medica. Harold added a 1/4 teaspoon of turmeric with a pinch of black pepper to his morning warm water, and after 8 weeks, his knee stiffness had noticeably improved. He did not stop his anti-inflammatory prescription, but he told me his doctor was surprised at his next checkup and actually asked what he was doing differently. I saved the final herb for last because this is the one that changed Harold's daily life more than any of the others. Number 7, and this is the one I saved for last because it is the most personal and the most overlooked. Tulsi, also known as holy basil, a plant so sacred in Indian culture that families grow it at the entrance of their homes and pray beside it every morning. For over 5,000 years, Tulsi has been used as an adaptogen, a natural substance that helps the body resist physical, chemical, and emotional stress. A systematic review published in the Journal of Ayurveda and Integrative Medicine analyzed 24 human clinical trials and found that Tulsi significantly improved immune function, reduced blood sugar, lowered anxiety, and protected against metabolic stress. A standardized Tulsi extract called Helixer was tested in an 8-week double-blind randomized trial, and participants showed measurable reductions in both objective and subjective stress markers. Pharmaceutical companies are now actively filing patents on Tulsi-derived adaptogenic compounds, aiming to create branded stress relief capsules for the Western market. But here is what breaks my heart. The families in India who have been growing this plant for 5,000 years may soon need to buy it back in pill form from a foreign company. Tulsi contains eugenol, rosmarinic acid, apigenin, and ursolic acid, each one with documented anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, and neuroprotective effects. Harold found Tulsi at an Indian grocery store near his home. Fresh leaves, dried powder, and tea bag form all available for less than $4. He brewed 2 cups of Tulsi tea daily, one in the morning and one before bed. And within 3 weeks, he told me his sleep was deeper and his morning anxiety had quieted down significantly. That is all 7: willow bark, French lilac, foxglove, autumn crocus, periwinkle, turmeric, and Tulsi. 7 herbs that grew in gardens, fields, and kitchen windows for centuries before someone in a laboratory coat decided they were worth billions. Now that you know all 7 to row, let me show you exactly what one man did with this information and how it transformed his health. Now let me show you what Harold did with all of this information, because knowledge alone changes nothing. Harold created what he called his kitchen pharmacy, a small shelf in his pantry dedicated to the original herbs behind his medications. On that shelf, he kept willow bark tea bags, a jar of turmeric powder, black peppercorns, dried Tulsi leaves, and a small notebook where he tracked what he took and how he felt. He did not replace a single prescription. He added the original herbs alongside them with his doctor's knowledge and approval. After 4 months, Harold told me something I will never forget. He said, "For the first time in 30 years, I feel like I am working with my body instead of just managing it." His wife, Margaret, noticed it too. She said Harold sleeps through the night now. His mood is steadier, and he stopped complaining about his knees every time he climbed the stairs. Harold did not become an herbalist. He became an informed patient who understood both sides of the equation. And that is exactly what I want for you after watching this video. Before we go any further graying, I need you to hear this next part very carefully because your safety matters more than any herb. I am not telling you to throw away your medications. That would be dangerous and irresponsible. I am telling you to learn where those medications came from, because when you understand the source, you understand your options. If you take a blood sugar medication, learn about French lilac and have an honest conversation with your doctor about complementary support. If you take an anti-inflammatory, learn about turmeric and black pepper and track how your body responds over 6 to 8 weeks. If you deal with stress, anxiety, or broken sleep, learn about Tulsi and chamomile and give them an honest trial. If you deal with gout or joint pain, learn the history of colchicine and understand why you are paying what you are paying. If your memory is fading, learn about Periwinkle and Vinpocetine and ask why your doctor may never have mentioned it. If you have ever felt a sharp burn in your stomach after taking aspirin, learn about willow bark and understand there was always a gentler option. And if your heart depends on a medication, remember that a woman in a small English village with no degree, no funding, and no approval saved more cardiac patients than most hospitals of her era. The plants are still here, in gardens, in grocery stores, in online herbal shops, and in the cultural memory of every traditional medicine system on Earth. The question is not whether they work. The pharmaceutical industry already answered that by building billion-dollar drugs from them. The question is whether you will take the time to learn about them before it is too late. Harold shared one final thought with me, Taya, and I think every person watching this needs to hear it. Harold is 70 now, and he told me last month that his biggest regret is not learning this at 50 instead of 68. Do not make that same mistake. Start with one herb, just one, and give it an honest 30 days. Track your sleep, your pain levels, your energy, your mood. Write it down every morning in a simple notebook. Then bring that notebook to your next doctor's appointment and have a conversation based on your own lived experience. That is the kind of patient every good doctor wants sitting across from them. Now here is what I need from you. If this video opened your eyes to something you did not know before, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. In the comments, tell me which of the 7 herbs surprised you the most. I read every single comment and I will reply to as many as I can. And share this video with one person you care about, a spouse, a sibling, an old friend, because this is information that could genuinely change how they think about their health. If this video opened your eyes to bow, the next one is going to change how you look at your medicine cabinet entirely. In the next video, I am going to show you 5 specific warning signs your body gives you when your medications are silently doing more harm than good. That one is going to be even more important than today, so make sure you are subscribed so you do not miss it. This is your health, this is your body, and these are your choices. Nobody gets to make them for you. The herbs were here long before the pills, and they will be here long after the patents expire. Take care of yourself, and I will see you in the next one.